This is going to be a really quick one, an addendum to the previous video that I did. Um, I was having issues with the jump gate mechanism because it wasn't natural. When you approached the jump gate, it was using ray casting to um, detect that you had touched the gate, and then it would automatically warp you. And that was kind of not really optimal. What I wanted it to do was so that you approach the jump gate, and you would then have the option to initiate the jump at your leisure. You could fly around the jump gate, but you shouldn't actually transfer unless you actually wanted to. So, using the tutorial series on YouTube from the manufacturer of Playmaker, I learned about triggers. So what we have here is we are now in Sector 2, which is the destination from the previous video, and we have our other jump gate. This time we're on the other side. And what we want to do is we want to send you back to to Sector 1. So here's our jump gate, and what we have around here though is a child sphere. Now this is a game object where I removed the mesh, so you can't actually there's actually nothing to see. Essentially, when we turn on the physics for isTrigger, that allows us to get access to that through Playmaker. So what we have here is we have this zone around the jump gate that we can have listen to for events. We have 3 events. There's enter the zone, there's exit the zone, and then there's essentially while we are in the zone. So here at the start, we have this state machine attached to this trigger zone. You can essentially approach it from any direction because it's a sphere, and it sits there and does nothing. Except we have 3 actions, all trigger events, and all of them listening for the 3 different states, the enter, the exit, and then the stay. So when you enter the zone, what happens is we change this alert text here. It basically says not in gate zone. We'll change it to say entered gate zone. That was the initial test. Then what we do is we get the parent, because what we've done is we've entered the sphere, but the sphere is actually a child of the cube being the jump gate. So each jump gate prefab will have a child sphere, which is the zone. So we get the parent, which is the jump gate. Now the jump gate itself has some properties on it over here, which I had thrown into just a script. The only thing it does is has 2 public properties. There's no functionality to it. One is transportation cost and one is destination. Transportation cost is an integer and destination is a string. Transportation cost needs to be integer because we'll be subtracting that from the player's bank account if they opt to go through the jump gate, and destination is a string because we use that in order to send the player through. So once we determine the parent of the trigger zone, we then use we have 2 get property actions which reference the jump gate props script, which is the script that holds the variables on the jump gate itself. One of them we get transport cost, and the other one we get the destination. And we store these in 2 variables, int transport cost and s destination. And that's essentially all we do once we enter the gate zone. Now, when we exit the gate zone, all we're doing right now is we are changing our text to say exited gate zone. So that really doesn't do a heck of a lot. We could go ahead and clear out some variables if we wanted to, but for the testing purposes, that's perfectly fine. While we are in this zone, however, we want the players to have the option whenever they want to, if they want to initiate the jump. So the first thing we do is we give them a little bit of a UI up here that lets them know that where they're going. There's a destination and a cost, and these values actually come from the variables. Here the destination comes from the variable sDestination, which was set when we entered the zone. We pulled that as a property off of the parent, which was the jump gate itself. So the cost, however, because it's an integer, we can't actually throw it in. Unity's UI doesn't let you display raw integers. You actually have to convert them to string, which is kind of a pain when you actually want to have a text box, enter an integer value, and have it do math. There's conversion that's required. So there was an action for Playmaker here where we convert integer to string. So I had to make a variable that converts our transport cost to a display transport cost, which we can then use to display in the user interface. And then finally, what we have is a label that says press F to travel. So when we are in the sphere, the trigger sphere, this UI will show up, tell us where we're going, how much it's going to cost us, and when we decide we want to go, we can press F to teleport. And we track that F key by using a get key down action to listen for key F to send the result on jump, to raise the event on jump. That event takes us over here to the jump state, which simply has a load level, and we read the level that we want to jump to from the variable sDestination. So let's give it a shot here. We're going to, let's max this out. Okay, so here's our ship, and we are now flying around, as you can see. Got some good action going on. But when we get, let me find the jump gate. Oh, there's the jump gate. So now we're approaching it from the top. We're not approaching it head on anymore. So we should actually get into the sphere. And once we get into the sphere, we've got entered gate zone, right here, our label. And we've also got our user interface, which says destination, sector 01, cost 100, which, as you remember, are the variables. So now if we simply hit F, we've jumped back to sector 1. So that's essentially it. And if we come back here, what we can do is we still have our old method here for approaching. Do we want to travel to the next sector? Hit yes, and now we're back in sector 02. So I'm extremely pleased, because this is one script, one state machine right here that will handle essentially all of my Jumpgate needs. I will just have to make the UI a little prettier, but for the most part, this does absolutely everything I need it to do.